Hi, this is Erin Zimmerman, owner of Elephant Social, and welcome to ChatConnect, a web series where this season I will be speaking with some badass lady entrepreneurs who are here to basically rule the world. Today I'll be speaking with Delfina Bonilla-Lopez, a spirited nutrition coach, movement educator, recipe developer, and alternative health blogger behind the alternative health and wellness information hub, Code to Wellness. And now, without further ado, here I am, Erin Zimmerman, with Delfina Bonilla-Lopez. For those of you that don't know, Delfina and I initially met on a retreat, an in-person retreat, and that was the best. Like, it was one of the best experiences of my life, and just the fact that I connected with a handful of women that I consider to be friends in business and in life, and Delfina's one of them. It's important to continue to connect and chat with one another. And so thank you so much for trusting me and being on the show without much else, just agreeing. You were the first person that I asked, and I'm so glad that you said yes.
Oh my God. I'm so honored. And I'm excited to be here. I'm honored to be here. Chad, I'm excited. I know this is a new project for you, so I'm happy to be a part of it.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I'm just going to jump in, and I want to know just a little bit about you and how you became the Delfina that you are today.
Well, there's a lot of places to start, but where I am right now, I am a boss lady over at Code, which is an information hub for all things eat, move, think, which is my hashtag, eat, move, think. And it is my hashtag because at real food, which is what it stands for, every day, which is what the move stands for, and thinking happy thoughts, which is what the think part stands for. I believe that those all go together. They help you create your personal code to wellness. Personal code to wellness is the point at which you're reclaiming your health and you're thriving in your body. So it doesn't look the same for everybody. But for me, those are all vital components of a code to wellness. And, they have a lot of subcategories like sleep, for instance, and, hopefully find joy in the eat, move, think. But so that's what I do over there. I'm an alternative health blogger, so you'll see lots of those. Healthy recipe developer, those. And I'm also a nutrition and movement coach. So I work with people to overcome, for instance, their sugar, weight, balance their hormones. And I have gone through some musculoskeletal issues myself. I've always taught movement to help people live better in their bodies. And now the way that I do that is I teach yoga tune-up, which is an awesome system that teaches you how to do some self-massage incorporated with traditional yoga and movement, stuff like that. So that's a little bit about Code to Wellness, where I am right now. But you also asked me where I came from and how I got here, started on my entrepreneurial journey, as well as my health and wellness journey, just about at the same time. My story is not that unique, to be honest. I gained more than the freshman 15, and I didn't like it, not one bit. I didn't feel like myself in my own skin anymore. And I had previously always been an athlete. I come from a soccer family, so I've been playing since I was 3 years old. And in between, and at the same time, I played a lot of other sports. I mean, you asked me a sport, and I played it. I did synchronized swimming. I did soccer, as I already mentioned.
Hold on. What? You did synchronized swimming?
Ice skating. I did for many years. I did synchronized swimming.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Maybe it's because it's not like a huge thing here in Kansas City, but like that is what I want to do.
It's not a thing anywhere, but it is so flipping fun. Man, I wish I had never stopped. It is so fun. I had a blast. I played tennis. I played basketball, volleyball, anything and everything. I did it basically besides track and cross country. I went to school originally to study music. My plan was to be a rock star. In the works, after I graduated, even though I had studied music, I didn't feel like myself in my own body. I had gotten pretty far away from a piece of myself that I was identified with, athletic, strong person. I didn't feel that way anymore. And so I wanted to reclaim my health. I started doing that. I started eating differently, reading things here and there about how to better my nutrition, how to move more, how to exercise more, what kind of exercise to do, all that stuff, when you first get started. And I started seeing results really quickly, and people saw that, my body was changing and that I was happy, and they wanted to know how I was doing it. And so as I'm in this transition period, figuring what do I want to do after college besides be a rock star, it hit me that I wanted people do what I was already doing. And so I became an ACE certified personal trainer, or an American Council of Exercise personal trainer. And as I was studying to do that, I thought that was going to work for a personal training company that I had been interning for. But in the end, I went and started my own business, which really was an accident. It just ended up being more financially sound. I was really scared about doing it, but I did it anyways. And I did that for nearly 5 years before I started Code to Wellness. And I really loved a lot of it. I got to help a lot of people lose weight, overcome their injuries, run distances they never thought they'd be able to run, move in ways they thought they'd never be able to move. It was a really, really cool experience. But eventually into some deeper health issues, sugar addiction, leaky gut, candida, some musculoskeletal issues at different joints in my body. And I needed to revamp. It was time for the next transition,
Evolution.
And I wanted to take my knowledge deeper, exactly, and further than what I felt I could do as a personal trainer, which not to say that personal trainers don't do deep work, because they really, really do. The good ones do. It was just time for me to move on to that, that next stepping stone, So then I started formulating what I wanted Code to Wellness to be. And I wanted an innovation hub, just like some of the ones that I used to go to when I had questions about health, alternative health stuff. And so that is how Code to Wellness, that's what it has turned into. But that, I don't know. Do you have any more questions about my background?
I'm sure we could go on for days, because I'm just so interested in everything that you do. But I also besides your background and how you got there, when you were younger, what did you picture? Was it always rock star, or were there other things that you thought, oh, I think I want to do that when I get old? How were you when you were a child, besides the sports? Cause that's huge. But for instance, I just learned that you have a brother because you're at his house right now. So
yeah, I'm at his house right now. Well, when I was little, I think if I can think back far enough, I think the first profession that I wanted to be was a classical pianist. I grew up playing classical piano, which was the beginning of my musical. Actually, before that, I was in choirs, but I grew up playing classical piano, which I think I started playing at 5 or 6. And so I've done that my whole life. I was very, very good at it. And then as I started growing older, you're exposed to different things, so other interests as well. But piano was my thing that I was known for growing up, piano and singing. I wanted to be a singer for a very long time. Don't laugh at me. I'm a huge Mariah Carey fan. I love her.
She's got pipes. That's totally, I get it.
She does have pipes. I love her, and I really love Ella Fitzgerald. Both of them, their music and their voices really speak to me. But so I've always wanted to be, a musician. For a long time professionally, and then kind of later in life, I thought, I don't know if I want to do that professionally. Maybe I just want to save it for me, There was a point that I wanted to be an eye surgeon because I had 2 cousins, and they were very wealthy, but that didn't last very long because it truly really wasn't interested in
Mm-hmm.
it.
I get that.
At one point when I was in 5th grade, I remember wanting to be a painter. I think for a long time I always wanted to be an artist of some sort.
But you wait, but in
I'm trying to think if there's
work and life, you have different aspects of art in it. Do you like to paint still, or do you have any other creative outlet? But I mean, in addition to singing, in addition to helping people.
Well, writing, I think, is my latest creative outlet. I never thought it would be part of my career or my job, but blogging is a big piece of what I do. Most of the time, my creative outlet, I would say, is music or is movement, moving outside in the sun. I do a lot of barefooting, which I talk a lot in the group. I do a lot of yoga, and sometimes I do that to music. So I forgot this, when I was younger, I used to choreograph dance. But so music have always been really embedded in my, whether through dance or whether it's through soccer or synchronized swimming, or piano. They've always gone together for me, those two things. Each other for a lot of artists, right? I mean, that's why at a concert you see someone singing and dancing usually, or playing an instrument and singing or something. I constantly thrive off of new things.
Yeah.
It's new stimulus. Yeah. Good.
No, that's really cool. I really like to read. I like to continue to learn. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of the schooling structure when I was in it, and I wanted so badly to be done, but I still love to learn every day. And I also, something that I really, really love to do is test my body in different ways. So I'm going to try rowing soon, and I've been rock climbing, and I just have fun with that. So I totally understand that. I was also, and still am, a barefoot child. Now, when you are a very big advocate of going barefoot, is that something that you have been doing since you were little? Like, do you remember when your love for it started? How does that all, I mean, how does your memory work that one?
Yeah. Consciously, it could have started when I was little. I don't ever remember that. I mean, I was lucky enough to grow up in a house where they had box gardens. You know what box gardens are? Where you grow your own veggies and stuff. So that was important to them. Vegetables, having space to run around in the backyard and stuff like that. We used to outside a lot. We'd play soccer or we'd run or whatever. But I don't think barefooting was ever important to me up until I started into this movement. I mean, I started in this movement world and health and wellness world about 7 years ago. But barefooting probably didn't become something that I felt was really important until the last 3 to 4 years. Because honestly, I'm very small. I'm 5'1". And as soon as they let me wear high heels, I wore high heels forever. Yeah. So I've only just recently stopped wearing them in the last about 4 years. Because I realized that they were contributing to a lot of my musculoskeletal issues. When you have a heel under your heel, the heel that is part of your anatomy, it throws your whole geometry off of alignment. You're basically working against yourself and forcing your joints and your muscles to hold you in really unnatural positions. And the longer you wear a heel under you, the more often you're doing that, and the more often you're asking your body to adapt to that situation on a regular basis. I think we all know that high heels create back issues, but they also can contribute to hip issues and foot issues and calf issues and a lot of different, even head, neck, and shoulder issues. So it's not just about the heels, right? It's not just high heels. A low heel can do it. Even something as small as a 1/2 inch. And I know it sounds silly, and a 1/2 inch is way better than 4 inches, right? In the grand scheme of things. That's one of the reasons I'm a big advocate of barefoot-ing and barefoot-friendly shoes. The barefoot-ing piece comes in. Concrete doesn't allow, it's not soft, right? It's very hard. It doesn't allow your foot to move through all of the positions that it would naturally move through if you were walking over grass or sand or dirt or gravel, right? It doesn't allow for it to, it stops it in a sense. And so because of what we put on our feet, either because we have a thick sole underneath or because they're squished into, narrow fashionable shoes, we end up weakening our feet a lot. And just think about, our feet are our base, right? Like, just like a pyramid has our base. If you got a pyramid, that is not a successful pyramid, right? Something bad is going to happen to it. It will crumble at some point, and that's going to be ugly, right? And so it's very similar with our feet. We have to take care of that base. And especially in the human body, there's so many points in our feet and in other parts of our bodies that they correspond to each other, right? So, I'm sure you've heard in like reflexology, like a point in your foot corresponds to like a point in your neck and vice versa and stuff like that. So when we wear, shoes that are too small for our feet or interact with the surfaces underneath it, you're basically saying, hey, I don't really need you foot muscles to be tense all the time so that you can squeeze into these shoes that I think are really cute, right? And so when you do that, it's a big detriment, and it contributes to a lot of issues like shin splints, like plantar fasciitis, and things that travel all the way up what we call your kinetic chain, or just the chain that is your body, right? To your knees, your hips, all those areas. So when you barefoot and when you interact with different surfaces or terrain, you're interacting with roots and grass and sand and rocks. And first of all, you're giving your foot the space that it needs for your fingers to spread out, for the rest of your foot to spread out. So it's got space, right? It's not squished. Second of all, it's sort of like you're simultaneously massaging and strengthening the muscles in your feet as you pass over those different surfaces. Aside from that, there are some studies that when you connect with the Earth's surface, you basically absorb its energies, right? Its cellular energies, and those translate up into your body in a lot of different ways. And basically they ground you, or they give you a sense of balance, or equilibrium. And there's a lot more to that science. I'm no expert, but I do notice on a personal level, I'm in touch with my natural surroundings that, especially if I've had a stressful situation or something like that, there is a sense of calm, that comes, maybe not immediately. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. When we met for the first time at the retreat we were on, that was the first time I'd actually heard someone talking about that and talking about it as a science. And so it's really interesting to me. But it also, as you're talking about it, it makes sense to me that going barefoot is a grounding method like that, because I've always seen myself as a pretty level-headed person, even when I was little, and I have always run around barefoot.
Cool.
To even whenever, like, my parents are like, you should probably put on shoes, like you're out in the neighborhood cul-de-sac just running around with your bare feet. And it's like, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And it's one of those things now where it's like, I'm wearing heels, which is a lot less often now because working from home is nice. You don't have to put on shoes half the time. But if I do go out with heels and they are uncomfortable, I'm not nervous about taking my shoes off and walking around. And other people are like, oh, you're going to get tetanus or something's going to happen to your feet. It's like, I've built up enough strength in them. And I trust myself looking at the ground in front of me.
And the more you practice walking around in bare feet and you train yourself on different terrain, the more of a thick sole walk on a rock, it's not that big of a deal. I'm not saying go walk on glass, don't be a fool, but, but the more you practice, the more you'll build up that roughness that does work as a protector. I'm not saying don't use shoes, because there are some shoes that are great and support foot health and stuff like that. But, if one of the easiest ways to build foot strength is to walk barefoot, then you find that and you go out and do it, especially if you're having issues in your body. One of the most important places to look is your feet.
And I've gotten even more about comfort, especially since leaving my job. So I was at the same job for 4 years and I wore heels almost every day, mainly because I love them and they're cute. But I wasn't wearing uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
heels. I totally bought heels that were like all sequins, but really
Yeah.
comfortable kind of thing. But I know that they're not great for me. So now I'm all about comfort, not just in footwear, but in general. And it's great that way. But you also introduced me to new running shoes, which I did get like almost immediately
Mm,
after coming home. They're not just running. I guess they're
awesome.
cross trainer. I
Good.
remember. My husband's
Yeah.
been making fun of me because they look like duck feet, but they are so comfortable.
They are very wide. They are very wide. But it's funny because in our society, we're used to seeing shoes and seeing them as culturally acceptable. When the truth is that most people's feet are much wider than a conventional shoe allows for, right? So then you get a normal looking pair of shoes or a normal width pair of shoes, and you're like, yeah, you feel like Bozo the Clown.
Yep. No,
But
but
don't
they're really
worry,
comfortable. Of
I
course,
have a
they're
pair
cost
as
a run.
well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
worried at all.
Oh,
No one looks
oh
at
well.
my feet anyway. Like, unless you're wearing sparkly high heels, no one's looking anyway. So doesn't matter as long as there's
Yeah.
comfort.
And I think with shoes, it's an all or nothing thing. If you've got serious issues, then you probably need to not be wearing high heels almost ever. But for those of us that don't have serious issues, you can probably apply that 80-20 or that 90-10 rule and be okay with that. Like I said, I treat high heels like dessert. I don't eat dessert all that often, and I don't use high heels very often. It's just, it's a mindset that I apply to it because I know that's what works for my body.
Right. Well, and I was going to actually ask
And
you.
there are lots of cute barefoot friendly shoes. So.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm going to keep introducing myself to even more because I love them.
I have a whole awesome Pinterest board of like cute barefoot friendly shoes if you ever need some inspiration.
Yep. It's time for me and everyone else to follow you on Pinterest. But that actually,
Awesome.
you were talking about dessert and like the 80-20 and stuff. I was actually going to ask you how you deal with indulgences and like what your favorite indulgences are.
That's such a good question. It's funny because I was in Michigan all of July. So I'm from Michigan, but I live in Tampa right now. But because I have location independence, I was in Michigan visiting my family and working all of that month. And you know what? It's hot in Michigan in the summer. And you know what my parents like to do in the summer when it's hot? They like to eat ice cream. I don't usually eat ice cream. I usually eat dairy, and I don't usually eat much sugar. But I allowed myself to have some ice cream. And you know what I realized? I realized two things. I realized A, I don't like ice cream that much. And I had never realized that before. And I realized B, I like chocolate, but it's not my favorite. I do. And so that was really interesting for me because although I will not stand here and say I am hardcore paleo, like 100%, like that's the only thing that I believe in. I believe in a lot of the paleo philosophies and the ancestral health philosophies or the traditional health preparation philosophies and stuff like that. I really, really do. But one thing that's interesting is that in the paleo world, chocolate is like the darling dessert of that world, right? It's like there's so many antioxidant health benefits associated to chocolate, and you might crave it when you're menstruating because it's good for that time in your cycle, and like all these other wonderful benefits, magnesium that come from cacao. And so, I grew up, my mom always loved chocolate. So I think that sort of was kind of embedded in my brain. And then I enter this paleo world where it's like, if you're going to eat something sweet, eat chocolate, 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 But there's a difference between knowing if you like it or if you don't like it. You know what I mean? Kind of taking those influences. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to satisfy a craving, sometimes that's not enough, right? Oh. I realized by eating a lot of chocolate ice cream this summer that I don't like chocolate that much. I do like it. And I don't like ice cream that much. I enjoy it. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. But then it got me thinking, okay, what do I actually enjoy? What are those things that I think of? Because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a foodie. I love to watch the Food Network and Anthony Bourdain and all that stuff. Oh my God, I love it. So I realized, okay, if I'm thinking of the sweet things that I've had throughout my life, what are those things that like really stick out, like that desert island question. If I could only take a few sweet treats with me, what would they be? And I realized, well, none of them are actually gluten-free. I don't usually eat grain. But the important thing is that I realized what those things were. And me being me, I can go create, a healthy or a paleo or a grain-free or whatever version of that. But one of them is called torta de aceite. It's something eaten in the Spanish culture, a flour tortilla, and they fry it and they sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon and sugar on it. A little bit sweet, just a tad sweet. But I think they fry it in olive oil. So it's sort of their equivalent of an elephant ear, but it's much daintier. And so usually they'll put a cream or something like that next to it and have it with coffee. And the first time I tried that was, gosh, I don't know, a few years ago, and I just loved it. It really stuck with me. And the other thing that comes to mind for me is a Lebanese dessert called namura. It's sort of looks like a blondie a little bit, but it's a mixture of semolina and almond and honey. And it's just basically like this square-shaped sticky cake with a little almond on top. And it is just, oh man. I mean, if you like sticky, gooey, honey-like desserts, it is just, oh, it's amazing. But it was interesting to me to realize that, those are my favorite things. And those are the things that they're not just fulfilling a sweet craving. They're bringing a lot more with it, right? They're bringing an emotional experience. And they're bringing with it that idea of these are the things that I love the most when it comes to this flavor, right? And this type of sweetness. But how in general do I deal with, did you say dessert?
Indulgences.
Was that your question?
General, not just
indulgences.
Dessert. Yeah.
Yeah.
Salty, whatever. Alcohol, whatever you indulge in.
I've dealt with them in different ways in different times of my life, right? So when I was growing up, I would have a dessert day. Like my family had a dessert day, and that was usually Friday. And that works really well for some people, just have a designated day. It depends on, I think, like what personality type you are. But if you really like that structure, that predictability, that kind of thing might really work for you. If you're a planner, something else I've done in my life before, if you're a planner, you might I used to do with my personal training clients, they would pick out a dinner, and they would pick out, another dinner or another whatever, and they could indulge. They could have, a high carbohydrate meal with grain if they weren't sensitive to grain, or a dessert, at that and ahead. In general, because I've worked really hard to overcome a sugar addiction, I don't eat a lot of sugar in general. It for me is a place that can begin to be a slippery slope. And this is not the case for everyone, but for me, that means I'm not eating something sweet every day. For me, that means maybe I'll have a dessert once a week. But I've worked to overcome those sugar addictions, and I've done a lot of different things, and I've helped a lot of people do the same thing. And so I don't crave sweets like I used to, which is a really cool thing, because when you don't crave them, you don't have to worry as much about, okay, is this a dessert day or is it not a dessert day, right? And that kind of thing. But I'm not the type of person that excels at planning. So I do well with decisions in the moment. So if you're a person like that who does well with decisions in the moment, then what I try to do is I try and savor the bite and see how many more bites after that I need until I'm fulfilled. So for me, that's usually 2 or 3 bites, and I'll close my eyes, I'll savor it, and I'll let it take me to a place. because at the end of the day, again, it's not just about fulfilling the sweet craving. It's about, where can that take you? What memory does it take you to, right? Or what emotional state? Do you need, the entire piece of cake, or do you need just a few bites of it? And usually if you take the time to not gobble it down, but to be in the experience, you don't need as much as you're served, because, let's face it, most portions are gigantic here in the US. We went out to a candy shop a couple of times, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes you're like, okay, I do want to participate. I do want to participate in this social activity, but I also don't want to make myself sick, right? Or I don't want to begin to put myself in this dangerous landslide that I know I could go into, right? So I happen to not like candy that much. I just don't. And like I told you, I like chocolate. It's, clearly it's not my favorite because I told you what the others were. But so I'll usually opt for, like, if we're going into a candy shop or a chocolate shop, like there's usually a chocolate covered almond or a chocolate covered nut option, a dark chocolate something or other.
Yes.
That is like a good option. And usually those things come, if they're little almonds, they're just very small shapes, or they might be little clusters, So I think I've been doing this for so long that, maybe I'll get like 5 or 8 almonds, right? 5 or 8 chocolate covered almonds or something like that, if I'm going to do that. Or if they're little clusters or something like that, like maybe I'll get 2, or if they're truffles, I'll probably get 2. And those are, visually, it's usually enough for me. And then taste wise, it's enough for it to be an enjoyable experience. But so I've worked really hard to not be the person that, walks in a candy shop and walks out with a bag of stuff. But those are some of my strategies, I would say. But the biggest, most important one is to figure out, okay, if you do like sweets, what do you actually like?
Right.
Because when you can rule out all the things that you don't like, then you can focus on what you do like, and you can heighten that experience so that it's way better than just scarfing stuff down, right? And when it's that heightened of an experience, you don't need as much food, and it's less about the calories, and it's more about this emotional place that you're taking yourself. Because for so many of us who crave sweets, there are a few moments where we truly just want something sweet. Most of those moments, sadly, a lot of them are tied to wanting some instant gratification and trying to escape something else, right? So that's why, one place to start, depending on where you're at, is what do you actually like?
Yes. We went into that candy shop. I hadn't been in a candy shop, a straight up one, for years. And when I went in, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. But then I got some gummies because they were like completely different kinds of flavors. I wasn't getting the generic. We're in a candy shop. And then like a couple of dark chocolate truffles or something with lemon in it. And it is very much, I savored those. And I even ended up throwing some of those gummies away because I brought them home and neither of us ate them. And it's because we're getting better at figuring out what we want and not just reaching for, a bag of chocolate or even keeping a bag of chocolate in the house. I love dark chocolate. But I'm not going to say that I would eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's one of those things where I'm like, well, if I'm hungry, or not if I'm hungry, if I have this, if my sweet tooth kicks in, then I'll grab a little piece of dark chocolate and just like let it melt in my mouth. And then that's all I need. I do though. Sometimes I'm like, I need a donut. Yeah. It happens, but it's happening a lot less frequently.
And that's a really good strategy too that you mentioned. Don't keep those things in the house, right? If it's meant to be a treat, then it should be treated as a treat, right? And a treat is not something, right? A treat is part of a special experience. So one way to keep it special is to not have it in the house all the time. And yeah, I hear you. I mean, we all have those things where you're just like, oh my God, I need a slice of pizza, or oh my God, I need this or that. I had that the other night. I have a mixed background. So I come from a Colombian family. Part of my family is Colombian and part of my family is Jewish. So But I grew up in a household where we ate very, very Colombian, typically Colombian food. So rice and beans and ceviche, lots of like grilled meats, plantains, yuca. My I was craving that the other night, and so my husband and I went out and got it. Is a lot of it deep fried in like canola oil? That I don't really want in my body, and polyunsaturated fats, and like Lord knows what kind of meat they're cooking up and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's okay with me. I don't expect perfection from myself or from anyone else. And so, again, I usually qualify those as a feed your soul meal. And there are healthy elements to that cuisine too. I'm not going to knock it by any means.
At the same time,
but
it's not an all the time
is that
thing.
whether you're a nutrition coach or a health coach, yeah, or whether you're not, and you're just trying to change your body and your health experience and stuff like that. I mean, we all have those. Some of us have gotten to a more masterful level, but we all have experiences like that. So yeah, expecting perfection is like it's not real, right? It can't be real.
That's when the breakdowns happen for me, when I'm just like, I'm going to go strict Whole30. It's like, I got to ease myself into some of that. And honestly, I find that when I am eating healthier, then my sweet tooth kind of backs off a little bit. It's never fully gone, but like it pops up every once in a while. It's not an everyday thing. So that's really nice. I've been making bone broth all week from your suggestion. Yeah, it's been in the crock pot, and I've just been like, taking some out every day. It's so good. So good.
Yeah, it is good. So good, and it's good for you. It's so good for like your hair and your skin and your nails and your digestive. You sleep better. I mean, it's amazing. It's really good stuff. I love it, and I drink it on a regular basis too. Although I haven't since I've been traveling so much, but
travel does that sometimes. But I lost the question I was going to ask you. I had one.
Darn it.
That's okay. That's just the nature of it. Let's see. I'm curious as to growing up. You tried all kinds of different sports and things, but what kind of friend group or friends did you have? Like, were they mainly female? Were they male? Were they all from specific activities? Were they all school friends? Like, I'm just curious about it, because I know I've talked to a couple of people who are like, I was a strict tomboy, and I kind of went back and forth.
I was very heavily a boy, because I come from a family that's very athletic, and my mom isn't very specifically feminine. She abhors makeup, actually, and nail polish, never into doing her hair, very, very natural. Wasn't into wearing feminine clothing and stuff like that. So growing up, I was allowed to wear whatever I wanted. And my go-to outfit was my Samba Adidas shoes, my Umbro shorts, a tie-dye t-shirt, and a backwards hat that was like with the Brazil, like the number 1 finger on it, because I love Brazilian soccer. And then I'd wear a ponytail, and I was pretty chubby growing up. So, I wouldn't say I was like cute in the sense that most little girls are cute. But I was a good soccer player, and I was always very strong. So I had those two things going for me. I was friends with boys and girls. So that's like elementary school age boys and girls. And I get to middle school, and I was friends with boys and girls too. I had a pretty good mix going, thankfully. But I met some very feminine girls, and I always had the desire to be like that, but I didn't know how, So they taught me like how to do my hair and how to do my makeup and stuff like that. So I swung very heavily from one side of the spectrum to the other, from being a complete tomboy who really didn't know how to be feminine to being like extremely, extremely feminine. We're talking like high heels every day, like hair, makeup, nails, the whole nine every day. You know, I like couldn't go out the door without having my face on or whatever. So I swung very heavily to the other end. And then I got to high school, and towards the end of high school, I started finding a middle ground somewhere in there. And I had, you know, pieces of that femininity, and, you know, a very heavy base, obviously, of my sort of masculine side and energy, athletic piece. But towards the end of high school, I started having a lot more male friends, I would say, than female friends. But my closest friends have always been female friends. And I have a few very close guy friends, and I am fortunate enough to be married to an incredible guy. But yeah, so it's been interesting. I think I've been fortunate to get along with both sexes, but the people who know my deep dark secrets, those are my female friends.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, because you tell them things, and you can relate to each other on a lot of different levels. I totally get it with the female and male friends. I feel like I was always trying really hard to keep my female friends, but I didn't have to try to keep my guy friends because just it was easier. And so it's like naturally I had guy friends in the neighborhood because there were like no girls my age in the neighborhood besides my twin sister. And so we just go out back and play baseball or play in the mud or something. And it was a lot of fun that way. And then with girls, it's like it was a lot of competition. And it wasn't until I was looking back at like middle school and high school that I was like, man, that's why it was so difficult, because everyone was competing with each other, just like wasn't natural. It had to start somewhere, but then it just became this competitive ground, and it's like, why are we doing this?
There was a lot of competition, that's for sure. And I agree with you. I grew up in a neighborhood, for whatever reason, there were more boys living there than not. So I remember, you know, we played outside a lot. In particular, we played roller hockey and street hockey a lot. And I never preferred it. I always wanted a girl out there, but there just wasn't one. So, you know, I was like, well, who am I going to play with? But yeah, I agree. There was a lot of competition, and I felt in both middle school and high school. But I was also fortunate enough to my best friend of my whole life, who's like my sister. I've known her since I was in first grade. And that's been one friendship that we've always worked at. It's the kind of thing that, you know, obviously we've worked at it, but it hasn't felt like a tremendous effort. You know what I mean? We always had to work at it because we like went to different schools, and then we studied at university at different schools, and we usually live in different states. But for, you know, I think probably you're right, because it doesn't feel one-sided. It doesn't feel like it's this gigantic effort, you know? So.
Right. That's wonderful. Yeah. I recently was talking to someone from high school. I ran into him at an event. So then we just went out for drinks afterwards, and he was talking, he was talking about all these things about high school, because that's our, you know, one thing in common, and we haven't really made any memories since, which eventually maybe we will, because it's awesome. But it was one of those things where he was talking about it, and then he asked, are you still in touch with a lot of people from high school? And I said, no. And then I was thinking about it after the fact, and it's like, no, some of my closest friends are from high school, and I still interact with them on a very regular basis. But like, I don't connect them with high school, because by the time I was done, before I was done with high school, I was like over it. I was like, I'd like to move on to the next, please.
Yeah.
Not that it was a bad time at all. It was just,
I
was over it.
I hear you. High school was a really rough time for me. So I have about 2 really close friends. One that I truly met in high school, and one that I met in middle school and became very good friends with in high school too, from that time. And then I have a couple friends from elementary school who I've remained friends with, and a handful of friends from college. And so it's like, I've been lucky to meet these great people along different, pieces of my life. And now as an entrepreneur too, I've made some good friends as well. So, but it's different when you spend such a concentrated amount of time with a elementary school age or middle or high school, even college, you have this concentrated amount of time where you're exploring some really neat things together, whether it's, the philosophies of a different class, or whether you're in a sorority or fraternity or another organization, it's different than now. I think, for my experience, has been that way, at least.
Well, and I know when I first started my business online, I felt very alone in it all. And it's probably, part of it is because you are at home for a lot of it if you choose to be. But I realized that it is a choice, that feeling alone. And so connecting with people, how do you do it? Is it through Facebook groups? Like, how do you make new friends now? Not every friend is you're going to find the same.
Yeah.
But how do you do it on a regular basis?
I realized that a lot of people who were that they're introverts. And so the online space is a really interesting place, because these introverted people who are introverted in person, where they feel like they can open up because there's a barrier. There's a bit of a barrier, right? And there's so many people like them who are doing the same thing. I'm not an introverted person. I'm actually a pretty extroverted person. So going into the online space was very lonely for me, because I wasn't physically with people. And when I was a personal trainer and all of my life, I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by people, to be surrounded by a community, whether that was in an office or in a gym or in a classroom or whatever. But going into the online space was different, because I barely knew how to use Facebook. I had to learn how to use Facebook groups when I started my business, because I didn't know how they worked. It's weird to say, but it's like walking into a room of people and not knowing how to shake someone's hand and say hello. What I mean?
Like baby steps. It's starting over.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like a very different space to me. It was so foreign. So at first I was I explored a lot of Facebook groups, and I met a lot of cool people there. Lately, I haven't participated in as many Facebook groups, and I've met some of the people who I still connect with online in person, either at masterminds or retreats like the ones that we went to. And now, I have a really nice group of people in my Facebook group, so I meet people in there as well. I've met people a lot of different ways. Facebook groups was one of the primary ways. It's not right now. And then I think, going out into my community too, teaching yoga workshops. Like I have a yoga tune-up workshop coming up next Saturday. To that I'll be teaching, and I'm teaching that for the first time at one of my favorite yoga studios in Tampa. It's called Lotus Pond Yoga, and so that's cool, as well as some of the people that I've known. Meetup groups is sometimes a really fun way to meet people that I've done before. I'm fortunate that where I live, I have a family in that area, so they're nice enough to bring me along to meet their friends and stuff like that. I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've noticed that as an adult, it usually takes longer to build a connection than it ever used to for me. And I think that's just because people are occupied with their careers and, their spouses or their kids or school, whatever it might be. So I've had to be a lot more patient with growing these connections and relationships and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm not introverted, so I try and be friendly wherever I am. I say hi to the people at the coffee shop or the health food store near me. They know my name and what I do and who I am and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those are some of the ways that I meet people online. Also, I use other forms of social media too. So I use Instagram a lot. So, I'm back and forth chatting with people there and getting to know them there. I've made quite a few friends from Instagram now that I think of it. Two buddies, Abby Clark, feminine badass. She's such a badass. She's amazing. And Chef Frankie G. He's awesome. He's such an amazing chef, uses like wild foods and all this amazing stuff.
That's really cool. I don't know if I've like necessarily, I guess I could cultivate that. I haven't cultivated any of the relationships on Instagram. It's like I just like people comment on things, I'll comment back and kind of leave it at that. But that's definitely a way to grow even more. And I just know that when I was in my corporate job, I thought to myself, these people that I'm working with are the last friends I will ever make.
Oh,
it didn't have to be that
no.
way.
No.
And, like even people that are in corporate jobs right now, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just thinking outside the box a little.
And I think too, like I noticed that at the beginning of me being my business, and tell me if you had this experience too, that at the beginning of me being in my business, you know, things and foreign, there was a lot for me to learn, and I was really uncomfortable in my own business. Now where I am, I'm a lot more comfortable. And that's not to say that there aren't challenges and struggles, but I'm a lot more comfortable with where I am in my business. And so I think that in and of itself, you know, that embodies itself in you, and people can feel that, you know, when you're from your presence, they can feel that. And so I used to notice, you know, a few years ago when I first started Code to Wellness, I would chit chat with someone and I'd want to like hang out and whatever. And like nothing would come of it, you know, or I'd always be the person inviting or trying to cultivate the relationship. And the person on the other end was, you know, wasn't trying nearly as much as I was. Right. And now lately I've noticed that people are reaching out to me, you know, asking me for my email address or phone number or whatever. Hey, can we get coffee and do this? And it's funny because it surprises me because I'm usually that person. And not to say that I've stopped being that person, but I've grown to be a little bit more careful with that. Because you know, then I get sad if I get rejected sometimes. So it's no different than being on the playground, really.
Right. And it is. It's totally like.
But I do think a large part of it. Yeah, it's like this weird playground without monkey bars and swings. So anyways, I've noticed, and I have to attribute that to where I believe I am now, and it's really nice to hear someone else say like, hey, you know, I want a little bit more of you. How can we get to know each other better? You know, that feels really good.
Oh yeah, it does.
So,
and I just
anyways, that's sort
earlier
of
this year when I was a little more lost inside of my business, I totally get that. It's like I would be the one who was just like, I want to talk to this person. I want to talk to this person. It wasn't even just to like pick their brain or anything like that. It was just like, I love everything about this person and I still love to do that. But it's once you get into a bit of ease and flow and certainty in what you want to do with your life or business or both, then that shows. It manifests itself somehow. And I don't know if it's like a little more confidence or if it's just how you come off or whatever it is. But I've noticed similar to what you said, more people reaching out, and it's wonderful.
Good.
Yeah, because then you don't feel as alien.
Good. I'm so glad.
At home. So is that what you do though? Is you usually work at home, or do you go to coffee shops or like shared workspaces? How do you like to work?
Some days I work from home, and then when I'm home, I'll go to a coffee shop. There's a few coffee shops that I love in the area. I'm an entrepreneur to the core. Like I love supporting people's businesses. If I believe in you, like I want to give you money. I want you to grow. I want you to still be here next week. You know what I mean? And I want you to be better and better. So I love investing in local businesses and people that I believe in. So I call it cafe hopping. I like to cafe hop. I like to explore different coffee shops. Like I said, I like to support the people that I like to support. I think I said earlier in the interview, I'm a person who thrives off of novelty because I'm very curious. So the exploring piece is something that's just a part of me to the core. And I'm a foodie. So I like to see, how's your coffee? Are you putting butter in it? Are you doing anything unique at this cafe that I haven't seen? Do you have kombucha or a green tea latte or whatever, blah, 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 blah. How specific can I get with exactly what I want? So I cafe hop a fair amount. I do work from home too. But those are usually the things that I do. Sometimes if I have friends that are working from home, or like my husband also works from home, we'll cafe hop together, or we'll make a date to cafe hop. But that only works with people who understand that like we're going to be present together, but we're going to do our separate pieces of work.
Yes.
So you have to find those people who get that, because otherwise your day turns into an extended social engagement. So you have to, kind of establish those rules in the beginning, and like, okay, we're going to take a lunch break and do this and stuff like that. But I've expressed that movement is a big, important thing to me. So, a lot of times I prefer working from home because I've got my movement tools around me, my yoga tune-up balls or my yoga mat, pull-up bar, whatever. I've got a really nice pond that I barefoot around like all the time. So I'll take what I call movement snacks, and I'll do whatever I'm going to do, some pull-ups or some planks, or I'll barefoot walk for 10 or 20 minutes or something like that. Or I'll do some jumps, a little yoga flow. I'll use my yoga tune-up balls, just kind of depending on where I'm at. Form helps me, but I need some freedom within the form. So I'm not always like, okay, I'm doing these same 3 sets of exercises every time I take a movement snack, which works for some people. It just doesn't work for me because, again, that's part of my creative flow. We were talking about that earlier. What's your creative outlet? And a lot of times for me, it is movement. So I work that into my day a lot of the times when I'm work from home. And I do it also when I'm working not from home. But it's usually less so than when I work from home. Because, there's people around, and sometimes I just don't want to be doing like squats and jumping jacks in the middle of a cafe. So sometimes I'll do it in the bathroom. I'll go to the bathroom, I'll take a little bathroom break, and I'll do some stretches, or I'll do some light jumping jacks or whatever, and stuff like that. But I do find that movement snacks are easier to do from home, or maybe if you're working in a collaborative workspace. But like I said, I haven't taken advantage of that before. So
I haven't either.
That's what I usually do.
I do like being at home because I feel like then again, I distract myself at home sometimes too, but like I feel like sometimes humans are my biggest distraction, whether it's I'm interacting with them or I'm just people watching. That's usually like, I want to watch what's going on over there.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. I did go to the library recently with a friend of mine, and that was nice because she was actually wanting to work. So it was only about 50% talking. But I do like my alone time. But at the same time, it's so weird because it's like, I know I'll get the most done if I'm by myself, but then I still like have to stop every once in a while and think, okay, I need to like reach out and talk to someone, because otherwise it's just it can be lonely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the aspect of community is so, so important. We're social creatures, and some of us are more social than others, but and this is why I'm always like telling people, if we're going to work together, if we're going to go out to a cafe and like do some work together, I'm like, I jokingly usually say, be silent together. Because, that's usually the goal, right?
Yeah.
We do our work, be silent, be in each other's presence, right? Be around other human energy, other life, so that we feel like a part of the community or the world, at large. And it really is important. And if you spend too much time alone, you start to miss it. And sometimes you don't know why, but I think it's because of that aspect of community. You need that, I don't know what you want to call it, but that energy or that exchange between other people. But you made me realize 2 of my biggest creative outlets are cooking. I love to cook. I cook all the time, and I invent recipes all the time. a
I love
lot
your
of which I
recipes.
put on my website.
Yes, I
Thank you.
love them.
And food photography. I really, really love doing it. Just, setting up the plate and arranging it and, what's going to go behind it and then editing pictures and stuff. So those have become new creative outlets for me. Well, cooking is not a new one. That's been around for a long time. But then the plating and the food photography and stuff like that, that's newer. So sorry, I just had to throw that in there because I'm like, boom, how could I have forgotten that?
Yeah, no, I've seen your pictures before. They're gorgeous. I can never make my food look that good. Most of the time, if I'm taking a picture of my food, I'm just like, I hope it doesn't look green or yellow. Like, I gotta get it out of natural light.
I mean, they don't just naturally come out looking that way. You got to do a little arranging and stuff like that. So, yeah. But thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
Of course. And then also, real quick, before we jump into the Pivot questionnaire, along with creative outlets, you had mentioned, you wanted to be a rock star. Are you still pursuing that in some capacity?
Yes, in a sense, yes. So I was a part of, and unfortunately, those bands broke up. Sad. So I haven't made the effort to look for other bands, which I need to. But I have been learning to play the guitar, which I had started to learn 8 years ago, but I broke my right ring finger pretty badly. And sorry, I wasn't just flicking you off. That was my ring finger. Pretty badly. And was in a cast for a while, and then I just didn't pick it up after that. So I'm learning that now slowly and like loving it, but it definitely fulfills my inner rock star in a sense, like just losing yourself in a song, with your musical peers around you. There's nothing like that for me. So I do miss that. Hopefully it's coming soon. And if and when it does, I will let you know.
Okay, please. Please. And again, everyone, if you didn't hear her or if you need a reminder, Tampa area people who need a singer. I still haven't heard you. I still need to hear you.
Oh my gosh. I could send you some of the stuff we have recorded.
Oh, I love that.
Somewhere I can send you something. Yeah. I'm a big Michael Jackson person, and the other night, I don't know if I told you, but this past weekend, I was in Austin celebrating speaking of female friendships, celebrating a 10-year reunion of friendship with some of my friends from college. We've been friends for 10 years. And so we went out, we had a great time, but at the end of the night, we ended up singing karaoke, and my favorite Michael Jackson song, Baby Be Mine, came out. And so we were just like, awesome. It's such a good time.
Oh, great. I love that. I love that. Well, you're talking about Michael Jackson.
Yeah, thank you.
Favorite stuff. So this is a good time to lead into our 10 rapid fire questions here at the end. Are you ready? All right.
Do it. I hope so.
I guess we'll find out, huh? And if you want to explain any of your answers, great. If you don't, we'll just keep going. That's fine too. All right. Okay. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Phenomenal.
What is your least favorite word?
No and bitch, I would say.
Ooh. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Well, number 1 thing is music.
What turns you off?
Rejection.
What is your favorite curse word?
The F word, the F-bomb.
Yeah.
I use that a fair amount.
It's
yeah. There's also, strong. It's strong. This isn't a curse word, but it's like a bathroom word in Spanish. My husband and I, we speak Spanish to each other. So we say nalga a lot, which just means butt. So we say that.
That's so much fun. Okay. So what sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of a guitar. What else do I love? I mean, I love the sound of the piano. I love the sound of the ocean. Very calming to me. There is an instrument that I can't think of what it's called right now. It's a Latin instrument, but you kind of go like this against it. Shh, 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 shh. I think those are the ones that come to mind.
I like them. What sound or noise do you hate?
I think everyone hates this one, but nails on a chalkboard. Anything that startles me, like a big crash, I usually hate that. I'm trying to that screech that car crashes. Oh, I hate that sound. I hate that sound. Yeah.
All right. So what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, I'm going to need a second to think about that.
Okay.
Let's see. I've thought about being I always wanted to be an architect and an interior designer when I was growing up, and I forgot to mention those, but those were big ones. Before I studied musicology in school, I studied, and before that I wanted to be an interior designer, and then an interior designer told me that you don't make any money doing it, and she scared me away from doing that. But I've always wanted to do those two things, and secretly do a lot of the handiwork and reconstruction that goes with it. I like to do physical things with my body. I like to move and lift heavy things and stuff like that. So those professions would be, I think, a lot of fun.
All right. What profession would you not like to do?
Surgery. Not my thing.
Both.
Probably not. Not surgery. Probably nothing like a financial planner or something like that. Not my style. Both very needed, just not for me.
Yeah, just not. That's why we're all different people. Someone else could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
The final question is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Girl, you made it. Welcome.
I love that. That's so great. I love the enthusiasm.
We are so damn happy to have you.
Thank you for being part of this, and thank you for participating and going along with the shenanigans.
Oh, this has been a blast. It's been a blast to talk about all these things. It's not often that I get asked these questions and get to revisit them and think about them. So honestly, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do this. I've had such a good time. You're such a good interviewer. You make it so easy to reveal those deeper, darker things.
I think it's because I don't like to be scripted, except for that last questionnaire. I just like to ask questions based on just pure interest and you. I will catch you later. Thank you. I'll talk to you later, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to Delfina for being on the 4th episode of ChatConnect. You can find out more about Delfina at www.codetowellness.com.